Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Gisela K. This is Grizzly True Crime, and today we continue to look at the Idaho case. I'm going to give a quick recap for those of you who have no idea what this case is about. We've had a lot of new subscribers join in the last few months, and some people might not actually have followed the case from the beginning. If you didn't follow it, there is a playlist for you. I've also done lots of summaries in between. And of course, we're all getting ready for the trial, which is set to start on October 2nd. I think that trial is going to break the internet. I think there's going to be such a huge trial, oh my word. There was one day where there was a press conference and there were 27,000 people here in chat. So can you imagine? That's the biggest amount of people we've ever had here at Grizzly True Crime in a chat. So imagine what the trial will be like. Oh my word. So on November 13th of 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were murdered in their off-campus college home in Moscow, Idaho, quite a small town, university town. Ethan Chapin, these are the victims' names, right? Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves. And they were 20, 21 years old, 4 students, just with their entire life ahead of them. And the thing about this case is that there were 2 other roommates in the house at the time of these murders. And then there's also the probable cause affidavit that we've gone over many times on this channel and on member streams. And we've done extensive map time and all of that. And the thing is, there's a very short window of time in which the killer, or some might speculate killers, committed these crimes, right? So it's a very interesting case. There's lots of moving parts. There's lots of legal proceedings. I'm showing you this page because just look at the documents in this case. I'll show you here. This is the Idaho cases of public interest. You could just type that in Google and find it yourself if you wanted to. But don't worry, if you don't want to, I will always put these documents that I read through on Patreon, because one of them I'm going to summarize today. We're not going to read through the whole thing. We'll be here forever. And it's a little bit boring. You know, it's all the legal stuff, all the legalese. So I'll put that there. If you do want to read through all of it, I'll always download them for you. And I'll put it in one binder for you. And then I'll put it there. Okay? So welcome to all my moderators. Thank you so much for everything you do. You guys are the absolute dream team. Welcome to all my patrons. Your support means the world to me. I really appreciate it. And welcome to all my members, all the subscribers. If you are just lurking and you're not so sure what is this channel about, I don't know. I hope that by the end of this video, you will decide you want to be part of this fantastic community of Grizzlies, as we call ourselves. If you don't like the name, that's okay. You can just be a subscriber of Grizzly True Crime. Subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss out on any of the live streams, videos, premieres, YouTube shorts, community posts, all that kind of stuff that I make for you. I'm always making something for you, okay? So I'm very busy over here on this channel. I do also have a second channel. I'm not that active on there right now, but given the workload on this channel, but whenever I get a chance, I make some lighter-hearted stuff over there, or reenact troll comments, because there's a lot of those. As the channel grows, so do the troll comments. Sadly, some members are some trolls become members, which is like, wait, what? So that's something to think about as well. Thank you so much, Ashley Valentine. Mods, if you can help me thank the Grizzlies for the stickers and things. I don't want to interrupt too much while I read the documents, but please know if you guys are going to support the channel with a sticker, I'll try my best to pop it on the screen. And if it's a question or something I have to read, then I will read through it at the end. How about that? Okay? I've heard you all loud and clear. So thank you so much to everyone who does support the channel. Okay, if you haven't yet, like, share so that others know we are live, because sometimes they don't get the notification if they're not on Patreon, or they don't know. I put it on Twitter, but maybe you can help put it on social media. Okay, so look at the documents, right? State of Idaho versus Bryan C. Kohberger. And if you scroll, you can see from the 29th of December is when it starts. That's, you know, when he was, that's the affidavit. The probable cause order was the 29th. He was arrested on the 30th, right, of December of 2022. So within 49 days, they had a suspect, Bryan C. Kohberger, and he was arrested in Pennsylvania even though this crime happened in Moscow, Idaho, because he traveled all across the country with the whitey Elantra in question with his dad and was arrested at his home, right? So anyway, look at all these documents. It's unbelievable. This is like a mountain of documents. I've actually never seen so many. Look at it in this case. It's huge. So if you just, I'm just showing you so you understand the mountain of stuff to work through. Even every time there's an update, it's like, oh my word, there's just, now we're getting to July. Sure, let's keep going. Okay, so if we go here from the 28th of July, there's a notice of hearing, motion to compel, temporary, or all of this. Look at how many they released. Like, so many documents in the last week or so. So even if you start here at the 24th, look at all of it. So I've read through all of them, and I've picked out the ones that I think would be the most interesting to discuss with you. Of course, as I say, you can go here and click on it and read it all yourself, or I'll put together a file, put it on Patreon if you want to read it there. And so it's a lot. So let's discuss the 4 most important ones that I picked out of this. Okay. 8-month member, Ashley Valentine. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ashley. Okay. So Holly said the defense put a motion to dismiss. They are really trying to extend with a right to a speedy trial. I'm so over the antics. I'm telling you, this defense team, Kohbeger's defense team, they are stirring the pot. They're doing a great job, in my opinion, for what a defense attorney needs to do, because they're definitely casting a lot of doubt on the case. They're definitely getting the public to take a turn and be like, oh my word, he could be innocent. What if he's innocent? What if he has an alibi? What if he has this? And I mean, he is innocent till proven guilty in a court of law, of course. But the thing is, this whole thing to like, we need an extension before we show the alibi. The time comes, the 10 days later, whatever it was, it's like, okay, now it's time to show the alibi. And they're like, our alibi states that he was elsewhere, and therefore we will present that at the trial. I'm like, okay, if you had an alibi, wouldn't you present it right then and there so that this guy can get out of jail? Instead of like, we will be showing you later. They've come up with a lot of things, right? A lot of things along the way. So let's go here and look at this one. This is a 5-page one. It says motion to compel, notice of defense of alibi, or alternatively to bar certain evidence. So this is the state of Idaho plaintiff versus Bryan C. Kohberger. Reminder, I am not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer. I have no credentials in law. I'm literally a true crime YouTuber. And I try to be the most responsible one I can possibly be. I read through documents. I love map time, timelines, bullet points, all of that, so we can understand the cases like as the public, right? So I love documents because it's factual, black on white. We can read through it. Documents, maps, bullet points, all of that. Love probable cause affidavits, all of that stuff. We've just read it as well for the Rex Heuermann case. By the way, quickly, let me say 2 things. Number 1, Lori Valodeba is going to be sentenced tomorrow, and we will absolutely be live for it. Hell yeah, there'll be victim impact statements, and she's going to be sentenced. Number 2, Rex Heuermann's back in court on Tuesday, and if it's live, we will absolutely be live for it, or we'll be live later to discuss what happened there, okay? So, Papa Bear, you always have such great information. Papa Bear, I believe you're local to the area, right? You say Ann Taylor is known as a bulldog attorney in the state of Idaho, and you could see why. Oh yeah, you could see why. Quickly, Karen says, I believe if he told Anne he's guilty, then she isn't allowed to present an alibi, hence no alibi submitted. It's obvious he doesn't have one. Right, so let's read through this in case anyone's a little lost. I'm pretty sure that you guys have heard all about this if you are following the case, because it's really, I'm a little late to this. I've been very busy with other things, right? Interviewing really awesome people. Oh my word, I hope you guys saw that interview from yesterday. Whoa, like, it's been pretty epic recently. With Kevin Clark from the Letitia Stark trial, Timeline Guy, and the detectives from Laredo. Oh man, what an absolute honor. So I hope you guys saw it. If you didn't, then please check it out. So, motion to compel, right? So this is now from the state. They say, comes now the state of Idaho by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney and respectfully moves the court for an order compelling the defense to comply in full with the Idaho Code and provide the state with notice of any alibi that may be offered herein. So the state's like, give us your alibi, what you got there, right? To include the specific place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the burglary and homicides in this case, and 2, the names and addresses of all witnesses upon whom the defendant intends to rely to establish such alibi. I do wonder if it's BF, which is one of the surviving roommates. The reason I say that is because remember when they said before there was a grand jury indictment, there was going to be a preliminary hearing. And the defense said that BF, I know they say her full name, I tried to protect her as best as I can here. BF, surviving roommate, and DM, surviving roommate. BF had exculpatory evidence, is what they said. I wonder what, is BF going to testify? And what for the defense, you know what I mean? What did she see? What does she know? Either way, let's see what they say here. So the state says, as the court file reflects, the state filed its request for discovery disclosure alibi demand on May 23rd, 2023, and served the defense on that same day. The parties subsequently stipulated to extend the statutory time for the defendant to provide notice of alibi and comply with this Idaho code to July 24th, 2023. On July 24, 2023, the defendant filed a notice of defendant's response to the state's alibi demand, which we'll look at. This document does not comply with the requirements of Idaho Code, and then in that it does not specify a place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the offences herein, nor does it provide names and addresses of witnesses upon whom the defendant intends to rely. The state recognizes that the defendant has a Sixth Amendment constitutional right to call witnesses in his or her defense. And they give references State versus Juarez, Taylor versus Illinois. However, as noted in both of these cited cases, the defendant's right to call witnesses in his or her defense is not unfettered, and the state has a legitimate interest in obtaining timely and complete discovery response from the defendant. I like how between the two, the prosecuting team and the defense team, it's like, you give us this, no, you give us this. It's very good so far. It's like very detailed. They all really getting all riled up for this trial of like, what do you have? No, what do you have? Remember the whole DNA evidence that we went over, that whole argument and all those documents? If you don't remember, it's on the playlist, but it's like a lot of back and forth and a lot of documents. So it does take some time sometimes to work through, right? So as Juarez Court also observed, if requested by the state during discovery, a defendant intending to offer an alibi must file notice where the defendant claims to have been at the time of the alleged offense, and the names and addresses of the witnesses whose testimony will support the defendant's alibi. I mean, does he have a receipt? Does he know someone? Is it, who is it? What is it? It seems like he got nothing. I think it's a defense tactic, but let's go on. They say, notice of defendant's response to state the alibi demand. The defendant has failed to comply in any fashion with the requirements of the statute, court rule, and applicable case law. It's important to note that the scheduled October 2nd, 2023 jury trial is barely more than 2 months away. Oh my word, like that just... Guys, do you know how quickly 2 months goes? So what's the next trial? There's a couple of trials in between that I would like to cover. We shall see, right? But October 2nd, it'll feel like, whoa, that was yesterday when we read through this, and it's already there, They say the jury trial is barely more than 2 months away. If the defense intends to rely on alibi, it's essential that they be required to provide prompt notice so that the state can fulfill its obligations under the Idaho Code to investigate and respond to the notice of any alibi or of alibi. Any further delays will substantially prejudice the state's rights. Similar to the situation in Juarez, the state has no idea how the defendant's notice regarding alibi constitutes an alibi, and, as observed above, the state is unable to comply with ICR 12.1 and Idaho Code because, based on the lack of information in this case, we don't know how this is an alibi at all. The state also notes, as the United States Supreme Court observed in Taylor versus Illinois, the ease with which an alibi can be fabricated, and the state's interest in protecting itself against an 11th hour defense is both obvious and legitimate. Ooh, the ease with which an alibi can be fabricated. Okay. And they say Taylor Supra at 412 note 17, citing Williams versus Florida. The adversary system of trial is hardly an end in itself. It is not yet a poker game, which players enjoy an absolute right always to conceal their cards until played. Based on the above, the state respectfully praised the court for an order compelling the defendant to comply in full with Idaho Code by filing a notice specifying where the defendant claims to have been at the time of the alleged offences and the names and addresses of the witnesses whose testimony will support the defendant's alibi. Given the time constraints, the state prays that the court direct the defendant to comply no later than 10 days from the date of the court's order, and that the state be allowed, pursuant to this code, to provide the defense written notice of names and addresses of witnesses who the state intends to rely on to establish the defendant's presence at the scene of the offences, and any other witnesses to be relied on to rebut testimony of any of the defendant's alibi witnesses no less than 10 days before the trial. Alternatively, the state prays for an order of this court pursuant to Idaho Code prohibiting the defendant from presenting any evidence, whether by direct or cross-examination, in support of any claimed alibi other than from the defendant himself. All right, okay. Caroline says, my guess is the defense is trying to give undue weight to extremely weak exculpatory evidence, if any. Can imagine the defense is asking for perp description and getting none, will claim it's exculpatory. Right? He had those eyebrows trimmed before his first court appearance, and they're like, you see, his eyebrows are not bushy. They are not bushy. Right? And they said, remember, DM said there was a man clad in black with very bushy eyebrows that she saw leaving the house through that sliding door. Right? But they might argue Bryan Kohberger is freaking tall. So they might be like, well, if he, is so tall, that why wouldn't you say a really tall guy dressed in black with bushy eyebrows? They're really going to poke holes in everything, you know what I mean? And that's their job. They absolutely need to and must. Yes, there must be a fair trial. They must do their best job. And the prosecution better bring it as well. I can't wait for this trial. Great Dane Mom says, justice for the Idaho 4 and the city of Moscow. Yes, absolutely. So, this is a 2-page one. Notice of the defendant's response to the state's alibi demand. Okay? So, State of Idaho plaintiff versus Bryan C. Kohberger, notice of the defendant's response to the state's alibi demand. So, let's read this. Thank you so much. I'm going to read this at the end. I very much appreciated Jojo. There we go. It's on the screen. Thank you. Okay. So, if you guys missed the beginning of the stream, I'm reading stickers at the end. Okay? So as not to interrupt here too much. So, they say, comes now Bryan C. Kohberger by and through his attorney of record, Ann C. Taylor, public defender, and hereby files notice in response to the demand for alibi and in compliance with Idaho Code 19519 and Idaho Criminal Rule 12.1. Mr. Kohberger notes that Idaho Code preserves his constitutional right to silence. So now it's like, okay, bring the alibi. And they're like, you know what? He preserves his constitutional right to silence as well as to testify on his own behalf. Mr. Kohberger stands firm on his constitutional right as well as the statutory recognition of that right. Noteworthy is that an alibi indicates a line of proof by which the defendant attempts to show that he could not have committed the crime. Attempts to show, okay, that he could not have committed the crime of which he's accused because he was elsewhere at the time. I'm sure you've seen in other true crime cases, there's been ones where... What was that case? That was scary. I saw a case once where they said a YouTuber committed a homicide, and what he did was pre-record something and then live stream it. So he was like, but I was live streaming at the time, because he had like a gaming channel. So he said he was live streaming at the time. He couldn't have been at his ex-girlfriend's house. I think it was an ex-girlfriend. Couldn't have been there. And at first, he got away with it like that. But then they're like, some of the viewers, some of the audience were like, that's pre-recorded. And they're like, oh my word, that was a pre-recorded, because it was a gaming channel, as I say. Pre-recorded. They were like, oh my gosh, they looked at the surveillance footage and they found out he actually was at the scene at the time. My point is, if they're like, well, maybe he wasn't there. He was actually at home watching Netflix or studying or something, and how calculated he could be and the knowledge he has with his studying for, his PhD in criminal justice. You just never know. I also wonder if this alibi, I'll continue to read now, could be, poking holes in, of course, the cell phone data, which we just saw happen in the Burgos Aviles trial, where they're like, nope, it's not reliable and you can't prove that this and this. Because even if he turned off his phone and they say that we saw the car leave, right? His residence. Then his phone went into flight mode from here to here. If he had premeditated this in any way, which one could speculate someone like him could have, if he even though he's innocent or proven guilty, right? We're speculating. Then would he not have maybe done that same pattern because he was there like 12 times, and sometimes close enough for his phone to actually ping there. So that means his phone was on, according to the probable cause affidavit. But imagine if he practiced a few times to put his phone on flight mode while driving around in the middle of the night. They could bring something like that in. I don't know. There's a lot to speculate, but it sounds more like they got nothing. So let's just continue on. They say, note one more time, noteworthy is that an alibi indicates a line of proof by which the defendant attempts to show that he could not have committed the crime of which he's accused because he was elsewhere at the time. See Bjorklund, alibi, defense 27, all of those codes, right? A defendant's denial of the charges against him does not constitute an alibi, but as soon as he offers evidence that he was at some place other than where the crime of which his charge was committed, he is raising the alibi defense. Like, that's one way to buy yourself some time. They're like, wait, we're going to bring an alibi. We need an extension to bring that alibi. Ooh, time's up. Okay, well, what we want to say is that he has the right to remain silent and that he's going to attempt to prove it, but at the trial, basically. Basically, they're not saying anything right now. Okay, Mr. Kohberger's defense team continues investigating and preparing his case. Evidence corroborating Mr. Kohberger being at a location other than the King Road residence will be disclosed pursuant to discovery and evidentiary rules as well as statutory requirements. It's anticipated that this evidence may be offered by way of cross-examination of witnesses produced by the state as well as calling expert witnesses. Okay, so cross-examination of witnesses produced by the state could be the surviving roommates, for instance, especially if they wanted BF to testify for them, because they say BF had exculpatory evidence. That's what I hear from that. And number two, calling expert witnesses. I can bet it's someone that's going to try to throw out the cell phone records thing, saying cell phone records are unreliable, and we already know that. We actually already know that. That's definitely going to happen, especially because they said that Kohberger, on the probable cause affidavit, it shows that he was in the area on, I think it was November 14th, right? The next day, not the morning, later. They say it shows that his phone pinged there, but he wasn't actually, they don't believe he was actually there. Remember that? So in the probable cause affidavit, the defense team's going to they're going to look at that, right? So, thank you so much. Okay. Now, so there it's signed. Now we look at this one quickly. This is a 23-page one that I'm not going to read every single page of this, okay? I'm going to read the stickers at the end. Thank you so much. It's too much, but basically, let's just break it down. I'm going to skip to the conclusion after this, right? They say, State of Idaho plaintiff versus Bryan C. Kohberger defendant. Motion to dismiss indictment on grounds of error in grand jury instructions or in the alternative remand for a preliminary hearing. Very interesting. Now they want to throw out the grand jury indictment. They are pulling out all the stops, which again, it's what they must do. I think they're doing a good job as defense attorneys. So they're like, there was going to be a preliminary hearing, but then that got skipped because there was a grand jury indictment, which the prosecution had, and that jury decided this needs to go to trial. This is ready to go to trial type thing. That's what I'm understanding. And so at the preliminary hearing that they were going to have, BF, the surviving roommate, was going to be there to testify. And remember, her lawyer, she got attorneys because she didn't want to be there. And then they said maybe it could be done over Zoom and all of that. Remember that? Anyway, so she was going to be there. But then there was this grand jury indictment. So she didn't have to be there then. And so she's going to probably be at the trial testifying, DM and BF and many other students, I'm sure, witnesses, all that. And so, especially for the next day and the 911 call and all that stuff, right? Now they're saying, no, they need to throw out the entire grand jury indictment and just start again. So a lot of attorneys that I've watched, I watch a whole lot of law tubers is what they call, right? Actual lawyers on YouTube, law tubers. I've watched what all of them have to say, and they all have a similar thing to say of like, this is a very like bold move. This is, I don't know, very hectic. This could affect other cases in the future. This is like, oh my word, I can't believe they did this type of thing, you know? So they say, comes now Bryan C. Kohberger, by and through their attorney, J. Weston Logston, Chief Deputy Litigation, and hereby moves this honorable court for an order, either dismissing the indictment in this matter or to treat it as a presentment and remand for a preliminary hearing before a magistrate. This motion is made on the grounds that the grand jury was misled as to the standard of proof required for an indictment. That's what they say. That's what they say. I will get your comments later. I just quickly want to power through these documents and then we could chat about it a little bit, okay? So they say issues. The Idaho Constitution set the standard of proof for a grand jury at a beyond a reasonable doubt based on the plain language of the statute. The legislative history also supports a beyond a reasonable doubt standard. The Idaho Supreme Court cannot adjust the standard of proof as it is a substantive right. The failure to properly instruct a grand jury as to the standard of proof is grounds for dismissal of an indictment. The grand jury was erroneously instructed with the standard required for a presentment. Thus, this court could treat the indictment as a presentment. Man, okay. Thank you so much. The Casual Friday, look. Casual Friday. Okay, so they've got a huge argument here, which I saw Jesse Weber on Law and Crime also be like, a huge argument. Because I'm like, maybe Law and Crime Network is going to break this entire argument now. But they're like, it's a huge argument. They are, bringing in lots of case examples and everything. So what I'm going to do is just go like this, quickly down to the bottom here. And as I say, I can put this on Patreon if you guys want to read it. Conclusion. Over 150 years ago, Idaho joined the state of California in adopting the Field Code, thereby adopting reforms to the grand jury system intended to restore to that system its function as a bulwark for freedom. The strange history that follows in the state, just as every other state with the same statutory scheme, is both tragic and unconstitutional. No court had the power to decide that the legislator had made it too hard for grand juries to do their work and to change the sufficiency of evidence required to indict. Mr. Kohberger is asking this court to recognize the long string of error that led us here and give back the people of this state the protections that they are owed. The indictment in this matter should be dismissed or remanded for a preliminary hearing. So see, they kind of want to go back to square one. They're like, could you just dismiss that grand jury indictment, start again, and we want to go back to preliminary hearing, which will obviously delay the trial. And I actually do expect a delay in this trial. I'll be amazed if it really starts on October 2nd. That'll be like, wow, like on time. Damn. Do you think it'll start on time? I wonder. And so if that happens, then of course they'll be back to square one. And then I'm sure they'll be like, okay, BF's got to come testify with her exculpatory evidence, whatever that is, right? Yeah, Jolene actually summarizes it well. Throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks. Right? Okay, and then there's this one more document here, which says notice of hearing, date August 18th. So I've written that down in my little diary. August 18th, 2023 at 10:30 a.m. there will be a hearing. There was supposed to be a hearing sooner than that, but it's going to be August 18th, so it's been moved. See, that's been delayed. Notice is hereby given that Bryan C. Kohbeger, by and through his attorney, Ann C. Taylor, public defender, will call on for hearing the below motions in the above entitled matter on 8/18/23 at 10:30 a.m. or as soon thereafter as counsel may be heard in front of the Honorable Judge John Judge. If you didn't know, this judge's name is Judge Judge. Indeed, Judge John Judge. So there you go. Mama Bear and Papa Bear says, we will see if it starts on time. I wonder, right? Wiz says, I don't think they're going to change the Idaho law for one guy from Pennsylvania. Kohberger is feeling lucky. So, I mean, again, if they had the alibi, don't you think they'd be like, here it is. He was actually here at the time. They're like, oh, crap. Okay, let him out. No. It's just not how it works. They're like, we will present this alibi at the trial. Really? What you got? What you got there? Shady cell phone evidence? Okay, so the defendant's third, this is what they're presenting in this hearing. Or talking about, discussing. The defendant's third motion to compel, filed on June 22nd, 2023. The defendant's second motion to stay proceedings. They do want to pause. Put a pause on it. Okay, but anyway, to stay proceedings filed July 25th, 2023. The defendant's motion to dismiss the indictment on grounds of error in the grand jury instructions or in the alternative remand for a preliminary hearing filed July 25th, 2023. Counsel for the defendant hereby gives notice of the intent to present oral argument and or testimony in support of said motion. So are we all on the same page? Do we understand what's going on here? I hope so. Now, what I'm going to do now is make myself bigger. Okay, now let me quickly go and see some stickers here so I can get to those. Ooh. And then we can discuss your thoughts. What are you guys thinking? If you haven't yet, this is your time now. Please subscribe, hit the bell. Okay, like, share. If you haven't yet liked and shared, please do it so that others know that we are live and they can come and watch with us and come and chat with us. All right, now, quickly, super stickers. Thank you so much, everyone, for supporting the channel. Erin Morgan Great British Pounds. Thank you so much. You say, been waiting for Grizzly time all Sunday. Thank you for all your hard work, G. Best chat and mods. Love Patreon. Forest Walks too. Oh my word. Thank you so much. You love the Patreon Forest Walks. You guys, Patreon is the place to be. It is the place to be. There's a lot of things on there. Fury pictures, bloopers, forest walks, documents, behind the scenes updates and photos. You'll know what I'm doing for the week. So if you like certainty, that's the best place to get some of it. I'm definitely not the queen of certainty. I keep you on your toes. You just never know what's coming next on Grizzly True Crime, because that's how I roll. I take it one day at a time. And so there, though, already now, you'll know sort of what's coming up in the week. Grizzly Cat. Oh, my word. You've been a member for 11 months. Oh, thank you so much. And Grizzly Cat is a super top tier supporter on Patreon, too. Thank you so much. Okay, Jojo Brandon, thank you for your sticker. You said, we support you in all you do. Thank you so much for the fantastic content that you put so much effort into every day. Thank you so much, Jojo. And Great Dane Mom says, justice for the Idaho 4 in the city of Moscow. Heather sent a little black cat like Fury. So that would be for Fury. And he's obsessed with his new treats. I put the new treats picture on Patreon. He is obsessed with his new treats. He cannot get away from the snack cupboard. Okay, so it's all your fault, you guys. You supported Fury. You made him too spoiled of a cat. And now he bugs us for snacks all day long. Ashley Valentine said, 8-month member yesterday. Love your channel. Happy Grizzlyversary, Ashley Valentine. To Karen, Heather, Ashley, Martha, Liz. Thank you so much for your support as well. And to everyone who supported the channel yesterday too. Duck, there you go. You saw it. You said amazing interviews with Detective Reyes and Detective Garcia. I'm still like smiling from ear to ear. I can't believe that interview happened. It was just so exciting. It was D.A. Isidro Alanis. There was Kevin Clark, the intelligence analyst from the Letitia Stout trial. And then Detective Reyes and Detective Garcia. Like, what? And then it's just like a really great month here for our community, you guys. It's really nice. We're almost at 200,000 Grizzly subscribers as well. So that's exciting. Okay. So Jellybean says, I like Patreon. So now, do you guys think that Kohberger has an alibi or what? Because I'm thinking he might not. So Virginia Wolf says, Grizzly to Crime. Hi, was that BK's white car at the house that night circling from the footage? If you guys missed that video, I did do a video analyzing, looking at as best I could the footage that was leaked supposedly right from that night. We did look at it. To me, it looked fairly legit. That's what I was saying. It looks like, okay, this looks pretty legit. But I mean, you see a white car. It does look like it could be an Elantra. But could it be any other white car? Sure. Could it be a white Elantra and not Kohberger in it? Sure. It could be. With the whole Brent Kohberger theory, which at the time when I presented it way back, people were like, what? I was so interested in that SWAT incident all along. It was always, that one has always been a red flag for me. Super shady, like what is going on there? So that I'm also kind of on board with that Brent Kohberger theory, okay? And the point is, I think his parents or him, he's deceased now, SWAT incident. They have a silver Elantra, so there's that as well. There's a lot. Never mind the Elantra that crashed in Oregon. I don't know if you guys remember that from this case, and that they were like, okay, it's not part of the case, but we are putting it in evidence. And there was a slip in there, in that little cubby hole is what we call it in South Africa. Can't remember what you guys call it. Front of the car, that little cabinet, the little drawer. There was a slip in there for some hotel in Moscow, Idaho. There's a lot in this case to consider. You know, just keep an open mind. But at the same time, they've arrested a suspect. They don't have the weapon. But the knife sheath, oh man, left there, and just everything they've got. Very interesting. A very interesting case, right? Suzanne Chance. This is a good way of putting it. He's got nothing except diligent attorneys. Right? Jeep Sarah says, what about the knife sheath? Exactly. And as John Kelly, criminal profiler, said to me the other day, behind the scenes, he was like, this Kohberger with a knife sheath being like, oh, or like maybe that was planted. Maybe the cops did it. Like that would not be a good defense, right? If he's like, it's the police. That would not be, you got to have the police in your favor, right? Virginia Wolf says, thank you, Grizzly to Crime. Okay, I was wondering how sure the video showed the vehicle. I mean, it showed a white vehicle. Could be. It could be. But who knows? Glove compartment. There we go. We call it cubby hole. Hayes says, oh, what? Alibi. Driving around for hours early a.m.? I mean, that could be pretty weird. But remember, we saw, I think it was his Strava records, like his Strava data. This guy went for run. Never mind that a friend also said that. We looked at that too. There was a friend that was interviewed that went running with him in the middle of the night, like 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning, 3 in the morning for runs. So maybe Kohbeger will be like, I was running. Okay. Maybe someone wore his watch and he's like, see, I was running. Ooh, imagine that. if he switched the watches. Oh my word. Sorry. I'm just not going to think out loud anymore because I'm like, what? I've got so many ideas now. Running. Yes. Imagine if he had the same watch. He's like, I'm going to switch this. You go for run. Oops, we switched watches. Give it back. See, I was running. That's what I was doing. I was not there. So we shall see. Okay. So I hope that informed you a little bit. I hope that was, I don't know. Some of you say you could listen to me read the telephone book. So, okay. You want to hear me read the documents? I read the documents to you. Well, 4 of them that I found the most interesting. The rest were really a lot of quite boring legalese. Sorry to say it like that. I know it's a very important case. Of course, we want justice for the victims. Of course, we put them first. Some of the paperwork, though, is just like, oh, man, like, I don't want to read through all of that. I'll read through all of it, but to read it out loud, not all of it. Smile loves his Grizzly to Crime. Missed you, been working. Thank you for your awesome coverage. Oh, thank you so much. Now, what I'm going to do right now is set up the live stream for tomorrow. I'm going to make it public. That will be for Lori Valodebal. She's going to be sentenced, and I can't wait. Okay, I can't wait. I've done quite a deep dive on that case. There were 4 parts that we did like a deep dive that even when I want a refresher on the case, I go watch my own deep dives and I'm like, damn, really put that all together there, hey? I really went deep into that. So you could check that out. I didn't cover the trial, especially because it was audio only. And let me just make this public. John Kelly reminds us always, there's like, what's your primary intake? Would it be visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? And he often analyzes killers and serial killers by that, right? Are they more visual? Like the Delphi profile that John Kelly and his team made. John Kelly is a criminal profiler. If you don't know who he is, I recently had a video out with him on the channel with the Lisk case, right? And he's been on the show many times. But anyway, with the Delphi case, he was like, this guy would be a visual guy. He's going to be working with his hands and something like packing shelves, whatever. We know he worked at a pharmacy later. The profile is pretty spot on. So the point is, auditory is not my top one. Visual, definitely. So when a trial is audio only, I'm like, oh man. So I really hope the Kohbeger trial will be streamed as in video. I'm sure it will be, right? It's very high profile. Jennifer Gilly says, yay, 15 months. Love this channel, G. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being a member for 15 months. I really, really appreciate it. Rex is in court on Tuesday. Tuesday, the 1st. Yes, that's what I read. That's what we covered yesterday, I think it was. Ruzer62, thank you so much for your super chat. Thank you, mods, for everything you do. Patrons, oh my word, patrons. I wouldn't be able to do this full time without your support. Of course, Patreon is a superior source of support because they support content creators. They take 10 to 12% from content creators versus other platforms like this one. It's like, I'll be 50% I'll take 50% there. So thank you so much to everyone who's made it over to Patreon. I'm going to put these documents together in one folder for you with my Adobe skills. And then I will put it there on Patreon. I might even update the post where I notified you guys because I know there's already been 2 emails sent out today for you on Patreon. I will update it and attach that folder for you, okay? So if you go back to the same post where I alerted you to all these streams coming up this week, I will attach this document for you, okay? That I'm going to be putting there for you. Jeep Sahara says, Lori's looking rough. There was a hearing for Lori Valodebal on the 26th, I think it was, which I watched, and yeah, she was looking pretty rough. And she might actually, sorry, I'm just confused by this. Yes, I'm streaming it. She might actually be talking tomorrow. There we go. Jellybean says, True Crime, you're streaming the sentence tomorrow? Yeah. If that was a question, yes. Yes, I am. And the link is already set up for you. This stream should lead you to that stream. So I hope to see you there. If not, just go to my homepage. I'll also just quickly put it in chat here. Here we go. Here we go. Stream for Lori tomorrow. Here we go. Now you can hear me typing. I type pretty fast these days, my word. From all the things I type for you guys. All those description boxes too, because I always make sure there's a lot in the description box for you if you do want to read a little bit. Okay, so you saw Tammy's aunt interviewed me too. Donna says Patreon's awesome. Thank you so much, Donna. And I will see you guys then tomorrow. I'm very excited. I'm starting half an hour before they're supposed to start the court proceedings. Okay? There will be cameras tomorrow. Thank goodness. And it's going to be on Facebook, on YouTube, many channels covering it all, you know, even all the main cameras in the courtroom. So we'll be able to see it. All right. I already miss you guys, but I got to go now. Got to get some rest because it's almost midnight here. And then I'll see you. I'm very excited to see you tomorrow. Definitely on Tuesday too, depending on what they're doing with Rex Heuermann. Are they actually going to show it or not? We shall see. If you're brand new here, subscribe, okay? And then you can not miss out. Hit the bell. And when you see the streams, remember to click notify me. It really helps so that it actually goes bing and notifies you. Okay? There's a few steps. All right, everyone. Sleep tight. And does anyone tell me, Lieutenant Peter Parnzo, must I go to bed now? Okay, I'm going. Okay, bye, everyone.